precisely 6:41 a.m. She had set her alarm 90 minutes early to give herself enough time to check the overnight results from the telescopic spy lifetime. She had allowed herself 4 minutes to wash her hair and face and get into her school clothes, laid out neatly in the chair next to her bed. As she tied the final knot in her shoes, the alarm clock ticked over to 6:45 a.m. She was right on schedule. Hadley was like a perfect porcelain doll with a tornado inside. When she ever sat still, which wasn't often, people commented on her creamy white skin, her dreamy brown eyes, the perfect rose-petal lips, or the shiny black hair that fell short and straight like a silky curtain framing her bright, intelligent face. Her doting aunts bought her pretty dresses and skirts, but they all hung unworn in Hadley's closet. You couldn't climb trees or crawl under fences very easily in a party dress. Nothing in Hadley's bedroom was pink. There were no Barbie dolls or stuffed animals in sight. The floor was perfectly picked up and swept clean. She kept a large toolbox next to her bed. The shelves were lined with books on engineering, electricity, inventions, technical manuals, and spy techniques. Beside the books were plastic boxes and tins neatly labelled. Wires, transistors, screws and nuts, extension cords, rubber bands, string. On her desk was a computer, her school binder, and all of her homework assignments, neatly stacked and colour-coded. A single poster dominated the wall above her bed. Albert Einstein looked down at her, saying, "No problem will ever be solved by the same thinking that created it." Hadley walked to the window to inspect her night's work. The telescopo-spy light timer was her latest homemade spy device. A telescope on a tripod was pointed directly at Finn's bedroom window. She had borrowed a light meter from one of her dad's cameras and taped this to the eyepiece of the telescope. Wires ran from the light meter to a machine sitting on a table behind the telescope. This was Hadley's pride and joy. Her science teacher at school was going to throw it out, but Hadley brought it home and fixed it as an extra credit science project. It contained a large roll of graph paper that came out steadily at exactly 1 inch an hour when it was plugged in and turned on. A tiny metal pen moved on the graph paper to indicate how much light was being seen through the telescope. Hadley had turned it on before going to school yesterday, so there was almost 24 inches of graph paper scrolled out onto the table. Hadley inspected the graph paper eagerly. When Finn's bedroom light was on, the pen moved far over to the right, and when the light was off, it moved all the way back to the left. At 7:45 a.m. yesterday, Hadley saw that the pen had moved to the left. That would be Finn putting out his light to come down to breakfast and go off to school. During the day, the pen had moved a little towards the right as the wintry sun got up, but by 5 p.m. it was back over to the left as the sun went down. During the evening, Hadley could see that Finn's bedroom light was on a lot. At 8:45 p.m, Hadley had marked on the graph paper, "Tall whistling man arrives." 15 minutes later, the pen had moved to the left and stayed there for almost an hour. Hadley clapped her hands in delight. That was probably Finn going down to meet the new house guest. His light went back on at about 10 minutes past 10. Well, that made sense. Finn was back up to go to bed. But then Hadley frowned. There must be some glitch in the machine. It looked as though the pen flicked back and forth several more times, indicating that Finn's light was going on and off a bunch of times well after midnight. That couldn't be right. She knew that Finn's bedtime was the same as hers. Maybe the pen had got stuck, or maybe the telescope had moved so that it was pointing at the moon or at a street lamp. She would need to check. "Oh, Hadley, breakfast time!" Her mom's sing-song voice interrupted Hadley's thoughts. Hadley ran down the stairs. If she hurried, She would be able to have her breakfast and still have time to check the two-way spy camera in the bushes down by the street. There was no one in the kitchen. At Hadley's house, everyone was expected to fend for themselves in the morning. Hadley pulled open the fridge door, but couldn't see anything inside that looked edible. There were bricks of tofu, bags of organic broccoli, and trays of sprouting mung beans and watercress. She moved aside the cartons of soy milk and found a large jug of green goopy stuff lurking in the back of the fridge. It looked a bit like the slimy scum that sometimes forms on the surface of stagnant fish ponds. "Mom, do we have any juice?" she yelled. Hadley's mom came up from the basement, covered in paint. Riversong Kobayashi was a small, thin woman who never looked healthy. This always seemed surprising to Hadley, since her mother didn't do any useful work and spent most all of her time taking the advice of her personal lifestyle advisor, Luigi. This idiotic Italian told Hadley's mom what to eat, when to meditate, how to play tennis, and kept her well supplied with new artistic projects. Hadley had grown used to her mother's self-indulgent whims, although she couldn't quite get used to her new name. Hadley's mom had been born Deborah Bodansky in Chicago. She had little talent as a young woman, but was cute enough to get a job as a cocktail waitress in Las Vegas. That's where she met the man who would become Hadley's dad. Nishi Kobayashi was attending a big convention where companies showed off their latest electronic gadgets. Since Nishi was the head of the very successful Kobayashi Securities, Deborah saw a chance to get out of the cocktail waitressing business and into the do whatever I want and never have to worry about money again business. She had become Deborah Kobayashi and settled into a life of leisure. But just 2 years ago, on Hadley's 10th birthday, her mother announced that she had been to a channeling session and found out that she had really been a Native American Indian squaw in a previous life. This was the most important discovery in her life, she explained. She needed to change her name to Riversong. Luigi approved of the change and modified her diet to suit the new name. This seemed particularly ridiculous to Hadley. She had never heard of Indian squaws eating tofu and ginseng, but apparently Luigi knew better. Hadley's mom had been eating this new, healthy diet for over a year now, and the result was the pale, thin creature in the kitchen this morning. As far as Hadley could tell, the only colour her mother ever had on her cheeks was from splotches of acrylic or oil paint that she had splattered off one of her latest art projects. Her hair was pulled back in a headscarf. She wore an oversized man's denim shirt covered in paint, beneath which were tight pink leggings and bare feet. Each of her toenails was painted in one of the colours of the rainbow. 2 long artist's paintbrushes dangled from her hands. She looked unhappy. "Hadley, can't you see that Mommy's working? Although I don't know why I bother trying. There's been so much noise outside this morning. I just can't find my creative energy." "Juice, Mom. Do we have any juice?" "It's right there in the jug." Hadley's mom pointed to the pea-green sludge. "This is juice? I thought it was some new colour you were mixing for one of your paintings." Hadley's mom looked hurt. "It's lemongrass, cabbage, broccoli, and seaweed juice, with extra ginseng added to give you an extra energy boost in the morning. Try it, sweetheart. It's really good for you." Hadley made a face. "I'll pass. Do we have any bread? You know, bread. Big, soft, brown, square sort of thing. Comes wrapped in plastic, already sliced, to give you an extra few minutes in the morning. I think I'll be really radical this morning, Mom, and I'll have toast." Hadley's dad burst into the kitchen from outside, looking wet, dirty, and annoyed. Nishi Kobayashi was a squat, plump bundle of nervous energy and pent-up suspicion and aggression. In other words, he made a perfect businessman in the cutthroat world of security electronics. A stocky, thick-set Japanese gentleman, he still had a shock of black hair, cut short and square. He was wearing what Hadley called his white martial arts pyjamas. He usually wore this outfit to do his morning Tai Chi exercises in. Hadley couldn't see the point of those. Jackie Chan and Jet Li never did moves that were that slow. Even a geriatric tortoise could get out of the way of one of those moves. All her dad seemed to do was to strike dramatic poses on their front lawn to impress neighbours and passers-by. But today his outfit was mud-stained and hanging open. Mr. Kobayashi was followed into the kitchen by a large white English bulldog. He too was splattered with mud, but unlike Hadley's dad, the dog was grinning from ear to ear, with its tongue hanging out and dribbling drool onto the floor. Hadley dropped to the floor to give the dog a hug. "Oh, Churchill, have you been having fun out there? Have you been annoying Daddy? Are you ready for some delicious breakfast?" The dog's ears pricked up. "Would Churchy Wurchy like some lovely broccoli and seaweed green goop juice?" Would you help to get rid of it for Hadley?" Churchill rolled onto his back to make it easier for Hadley to scratch his tummy. "You could just lie there and I could pour the green glop right into your mouthy-wouthy. You wouldn't even need to move. Gluck, gluck, gluck."